Welcome to a demo of RustPoint. This is going to be an intro demo that kind of gives you an idea of what the service is and how you can build APIs and designs and prototypes. So let's start by logging in. We're on rustpoint.io and we will click login. Now I've logged in before, so it'll come right up. So at this point we can choose a previous project from our dropdown or start a new one. So let's start with a new one. And I'm going to call this, let's say, a school API for now. So an API for schools. So I don't have any OpenAPI to import, so I'm just going to create a new project. And we can start now adding our paths. So just like any mocking tools, anything like that, we start by adding paths. The difference between this tool and other mocking tools is this will generate you a prototype as you design. So let's do an example of this. So let's start with instantly. I'm going to say something there called schools. So this is going to be a collection, not a single resource. You'll see that. It's going to be a collection of schools. So I want to support everything. Let's say we won't support patch on the first cut. And I'm going to give it an ID of 1 for my first school, and I'm going to call this Jane Doe High School, and let's say a grade 10 to 12 high school. And to give you an example of some nested objects, I'm going to give this an address. And I'm going to call this street is 100 Main Street, and city is Boston, and state is Massachusetts. So this gives you a little example. I'm going to format this JSON to look a little nicer. So I'm going to say, all right, that's my first draft of what I'm going to call a school right now. So you can just put in the JSON is the easiest way to get going. You can come over and build the resource manually by adding in field by field in a UI, whichever you prefer. So to show you what we're going to do here is we're going to make a path called schools, and schools is associated with this resource. So we'll support get schools by ID, and this will be the resource returned. So let's click save, and we'll see an API path show up in our list. Now, being cloud-based, this is running out of the cloud on your VM. Sometimes you might have a little lag. Most of the time, it should be pretty snappy to get this path. So that should appear any second, and we'll start designing. Continue designing. So you'll see here's our path. We say post and a get for schools. I can always change that if I want to over here. And you'll see my school resource is going to look like this as an example. So I have my first API path in there. So at any point I can do anything. I can do a try API. I can choose the doc. So right away I can come and say, let's take a look at what my OpenAPI would look like for that. And you'll see that's generated right there. I can generate a Postman collection, and I can do various other documents there you can see and play with. I can try my API. So because I did this seamlessly, as you design a path, for example, automatically in the cloud, a database has been created for the schools, and it can now input the data. So if I come over to my try API, I can come over here and I can say get schools, and I can execute my request, try it out, click execute, and you can see the execution appear there. So at any point in time, this is now a real working prototype, no code. So let's put in one more API, and I'm going to add one in here called teachers. So this will give you an example of having a path parameter. So we're going to say schools, and I'm going to specify my school ID, and then I'm going to call this teachers. And for my number one teacher, I'm going to call this John Doe, and the course that he teaches, is, let's say, math, and we don't need a description, and we'll say that's going to be grade 12. It's telling me I have an error here. Okay, let's go right here. I think I see it. So now we have schools. So you see, this is how we add path parameters. So now our API will support get schools, pass in the school ID and teachers. And again, this will be a path collection. So I'm going to click save. And you'll see my path was created a little quicker. And to show you an example of a single resource, I'm going to call this my favorite teacher. And that's a single resource. And I only want to support get. So someone can get my favorite teacher. And I'm just going to have that be a name. And we'll call that John Doe. And I'll remove the colon. It looks like that works good. Now, I don't need to create a new resource. And actually, I didn't even have to enter this in because I already have the teacher resource that I can reuse. So now I'm just saying favorite teacher, API path, and I'll reuse my teacher resource. I hit save. So you'll see there now I support get favorite teacher. Now if I want to see my resources, there they are here. If I want to add another resource, I can add it in. If I want to add another teacher, some properties, I can change that. And under my user-defined data types, you'll notice I have an address, and that was what I set up. That was why I created for the school. So we have 3 paths here that we created pretty quickly. I would now like to I can try this myself in my own little sandbox here, but what I would like to do is I want to send this out for review to my users to give it a try. So at this point, I'm just going to go check and make sure what my data is. So for my favorite teacher, I'm going to add in 12, and I'm going to say John Doe, course math, and I'm going to click saved. For my schools, I have one already in here because I added in my JSON at the time. So I could add in another school. I can say the address is San Francisco. And the street is 200 Front Street. And the state is California. And I'm going to call this John Elementary School. And that is an elementary school, primary to 5, let's say. So I'll add in an extra bit of path data. And you see, so now I have 2 examples of data. If I come into my school, I'll say, okay, for my school ID, which is, if I look at this, I have a school ID, which is 1 and 2. I'm going to say my school ID is 1, and I'm going to add in a teacher, which is grade 12, which is John Doe. And the course is math. Now you may be saying, can that be automatically done for me? We can make that be automatically done, as we'll see in making this a little higher fidelity. But when we're doing no code, we just add in our data like this. So for schools 1, I only have 1 teacher. And if I want to add another one in, I can say for my second school, it's going to be teacher. And I'm going to call that grade 10. And that's Jane Doe, who's a teacher. And the course is English. So I add my path data. Okay, so we have a couple schools, we have a favorite teacher, and we have a teacher in each of our school IDs. So let's send this out for review. I'm going to come down here, and I'll show you this screen once more. I could just say deploy, or I can come down into my deploy API. They both go to the same page. So then I'm going to call this my beta one, and I'm going to say check out my school API. And I'm going to deploy these 3 paths, and I'm going to copy all the data to the prototype. So now this will deploy a completely new web app in the cloud that's completely separate from what you're working on here. So you can go ahead and start making changes. It won't affect what you've deployed here. It's a complete snapshot so that you can just have it out there and let people try it. So, and there's your API calls. So if I want to go test this, let's go take a look. And I'm going to use an online HTTP request. You could use curl. You can use, there's a curl example, to get the favorite teacher. I'm going to use hopscotch just to make it easy to grab here. I'm going to paste that in here. And then I'm going to put in my header. I'm going to grab my full access key. You'll see here it says make a request, set the X endpoint key. So we're going to add that in here. We're going to say X endpoint key, and we paste it. So now when I click get, you'll see there's our schools. Now if I want to say give me the teachers in that, remember we only have one. You'll see there's our one teacher, John Doe Math. And of course our favorite teacher is, oops, I think that's what it's called. And then, let's see, API. Let's grab this here in case I mistyped it here. I'll just copy and paste it. And I'll click. And you'll see there's our favorite teacher. Okay, so this shows you how this kind of is a unique little tool that as you're designing an API, a prototype is built for you automatically, so you don't have to worry about canned or hard-coded API responses. And it'll also generate the OpenAPI for you, Swagger UI client. We have many different options. And if you don't like the options we have here, any one of these can be customized by coming down to your docs and customizing any of the templates. So this concludes our demo where we just wanted to give you an intro of how to get very quickly no-code prototypes quickly out to customers and users to start trying, auto-generate documentation. In our subsequent videos, you can come and see how we can really increase the fidelity, and we can add logic, customize the requests, plug into webhooks. We can send alerts to Slack, for example. So we will come back and hope you come back and see more videos. Thank you.